Good morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. Tarshish. Where is Tarshish, and how does it relate to the Battle of Gog, Magog in Ezekiel 38? And how does that relate to the United States? And is the United States going to be in the Ezekiel 38 battle? Are they going to be brought into it? Are they going to support Israel in those days? I'm going to take a look at this and take a look at Tarshish and how it connects back. Let's start with a couple articles here and see where we are on the world stage. Zero Hedge. This is in New York. New York's governor is now collecting data from surveillance efforts on social media to monitor hate speech. So, hate speech still is somewhat allowed on the internet, on YouTube, wherever it may be, as long as it's not um, overt and you're not threatening someone directly. But now in New York, because of the anti Semitic things that are happening, the rise in anti Semitic attacks, they are now tracking social media, and they will now come and visit you. Just like in the COVID days, if you said something against the lockdowns, or you were saying something against what the government were saying, police would actually come out and talk to you and basically scare you into not saying things online against what the government was saying. Well, this is interesting. Hochul, so let me go down here. Kathy Hochul announced that New York is collecting data from surveillance efforts on social media. Hochul says social media analysis unit will contact people who commit hate speech. Look at this. A social media analysis unit, I assume an arm of the police, will come contact you if you commit hate speech. Isn't that interesting? Now, what is hate speech? Is it going to be anything against maybe homosexuality? Is it anything about LGBTQ, obviously? Is it anything against maybe Christians, suggesting that Islam is not a true religion? Will that be considered hate speech? You betcha it will. Um, if it goes one way, it goes the other. Now, I'm not saying that this it's wrong. Anti-Semitism is absolutely wrong. But when the government starts clamping down on this stuff, and I kind of think they need to in some way, but I don't know how else you do it. But it means that there's less freedom for us all to say things. So can we say, Allah is not God anymore? Can we say anything bad about Islam? Will that be considered hate speech? And of course, this is to ensure, and I'm going to add the word health. This is to ensure the health and safety of everybody, right? And that's always what the governments will implement um, these restrictions on freedom in the name of. It's in the name of health and safety. The mark of the beast will come in the name of health and safety for us all. Remember during COVID when they used contactless payment methods, uh, digital currency, and they pushed that in the name of health and safety. So you weren't transferring dollar bills and coins, right? Which could transfer COVID-19. This is what the government told us. We are in a dystopian world as we speak. In 1984, if you've read the book, go read it. Boeing expands missile factory support to support America's endless war. So the war economy is kicking up. This is good for the economy overall. U.S. is in so much debt. All Western countries are in so much debt. They can't sustain it, so they have to take you to war. And indeed, it's paying off because now we are firing up the missile factories even more, going to extra shifts, whatever it may be. This one is for Patriot defense missiles, apparently. And Boeing is making a lot of money, and they're ramping up their production, which is good and it's bad. It's good because, for a long time, manufacturing has been depressed because they haven't been using them, but it means our defensive capabilities, U.S. and such, has not been there, especially if the supply chain stops from China or Russia, wherever we get parts and things. So domestic production of this is good for our defense, but it also means that we're headed to war. as well. Boeing announced Monday that its Huntsville factory is currently being expanded by 35,000 square feet to produce more Patriot Advanced Capability 3 or PAC-3 seekers, which will allow production to increase by 30% by 2027. I think that may be too late based on what's happening in the world, but we'll see. This is interesting. Fewer Americans. Let me just make that smaller there. I'll talk about that in a second. Oh well, I'll put this and get that into your mind. Every time Israel is attacked, it gains more land. We're going to talk about that in, like I say, in a second. But yeah, since 1948, when Arab countries come against her, Israel gets more land. Before 1967, you can see Egypt owning the peninsula there. After 1967, Israel, it was occupied, but they later gave that back to Egypt. But you will see what we're talking about as it relates to. You see in I don't know, you can't see the pointer there, but where Gaza would be, that's was owned by Egypt at that specific time, and that is now gained by Israel. But this is what always happens. Now Israel, like I say, often gives back the land. Israel conquered the Temple Mount and took it, but gave it back to Jordan. So every time they're attacked, they gain land. Whether or not they give it back is another question, but they always gain land when they're attacked. Fewer Americans are interested in fighting wars. Now, why do I say this? And the Pentagon is having trouble meeting recruiting goals, and an increasingly small portion of the American public is interested in fighting wars, and an increasingly small portion. So it's the interest in military is declining. Much of military will fall short of recruitment goals by 25% this year. And so you'll recall, of course, they just hired 800 new recruiters to get those numbers back up. Now, of course, all the woke folks and the folks who don't care about United States as a nation, etc., they have no interest in joining the war. They're going to all be anti-war, absolutely. We'll take a look. I'm going to come back around to this. This is Daily Mail. China's spy agency claims gene weapons that target specific races being developed by certain countries in eerie warning. Now, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I would say that this would make sense, that countries would be doing this, to be absolutely honest. Some people said that about COVID. I don't know if that's true. I haven't specifically seen evidence because all countries had to deal with it and had a lot of sickness due to it. But it makes sense that they would attempt to create something that would target a specific ethnic group or race of people, and maybe we'll see that in the last days. So keep that in the back of your mind. I don't know that they succeeded. Are they trying it? It would make sense to me. Now this is interesting. Israel soldiers pictured in Hamas parliament. Hamas lost control of Gaza. Now they have came out and said basically that they are going to be staying in Gaza. They are going to be providing security for Gaza. They are going to hold on to it at this point in time, basically, and because they're fed up with Hamas, they're fed up with the terror that they always have to deal with. So they owned the land in Gaza. Obviously, at one point, they gave it back over in some of the peace, quote unquote, peace agreements. Where land for peace. Israel is always willing to try land for peace. They tried it. Gaza got their land, but it turns out all they want to do is destroy Israel. Now Hamas over in Qatar, the leaders have come out and said, you know what? We don't want peace. We just want endless war with Israel because they want to destroy Israel. There is no interest in actual land for peace at all. Their whole point is to destroy Israel. Now there's lots of peaceful Palestinians in that area, innocent civilians who probably absolutely do just want peace and they just want to live their lives. But the government they vote in, whether by pressure or not, the Hamas is voted into government. And again, that's probably through coercion. If you don't vote Hamas, you'll there'll be consequences. I don't know what they would be, but Hamas will maybe come after you. And so there's coercion, but certainly they're voting them in, however it may be. But so Israel plants the flag. They planted the flag on the beach in Gaza, and now in the Parliament buildings. So they're taking over, and they're going to control that land. And that's why I say, ultimately, whenever whether it be nation states or terrorists go after Israel, Israel gains land, and they will. And the Levant, the area of the Levant is larger than what you see on the right-hand side there. It includes part of Lebanon, Syria, part of Jordan, if not all of Jordan, actually, Saudi Arabia, and going left or west into Egypt. There's a greater Levant or land area spoken of in, I believe it's in Genesis, where the size of the land is described. And I think ultimately Israel will have the whole land. And I think every time the neighbors, in the area attack her, they will gain that land. So interesting. So let's take a look at Tarshish and Britain. So this is Ezekiel 38, and this is what we see occurring. And Ezekiel 38 speaks of Sheba and Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof. Now I go back to this idea that fewer Americans are interested in going to war. Could it be that during Ezekiel 38 and 39, United States is not mentioned as a country, and they're not backing up Israel, and that's because they have no political will. The citizens of the U.S. Have no interest. Not only that, but they're likely bankrupt at that point in time. But this would speak to me that there'll be an uprising of folks who simply do not want to go to war, and the Pentagon doesn't have the troops, and the government doesn't have the the will of the people to go to war. So Sheba, Dedan, the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions, and this is what we're going to be speaking of. But who is Tarshish? And they say, Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? They're describing what the invading nations are doing, taking away gold and silver, taking away money, taking away cattle and goods, taking away food. So they're taking away money and food and a great spoil. Why would they bother to come in and take food? Could it be that this comes at a time when there's economic collapse and there's great famine in the land? Or they're recovering from some sort of World War III event? I think that's exactly what happens. This comes at a time when World War III has just occurred, and the world is destroyed, much of it, at least the major powers. And there's no interest or will of the people of the major powers to come in and do anything. And not only that, maybe the United States, as a world superpower, has lost its world superpower status. Its economy is destroyed, and they are in a state of famine. Well, where do we see the United States here? Well, many say it's from the young lions of Tarshish, and they're part of the group that's basically saying a bunch of things at the UN, but not actually coming to Israel's assistance. So this is kufi.org.uk, and it's about Britain, Tarshish, and Bible prophecy. And it says Ezekiel 38 speaks of a future time when Gog-Magog confederacy comes against Israel and the God of Israel. However, Sheba and Dedan, modern-day nations of the Arabian Peninsula, form an alliance with Tarshish. So, who is Tarshish? Well, the Bible portrays Tarshish as a major maritime power and influential world trader. In fact, Tarshish will play a pivotal role in protecting trade waters in the region. In Isaiah, we read the ships of Tarshish. Ezekiel refers to the merchants of Tarshish with all its young lions. The phrase is a Hebrew idiom meaning the nations that come out of Tarshish. All the young lions, the nations that come out. So, the United States, Australia, Canada, the colonists and the colonies that come out of Britain. One cannot ignore the national symbolism of Britain lying in every form, coat of arms, and emblems used by national sports teams. In Ezekiel 19, describes the lioness rearing her cubs to be able to defend for themselves, leading many to hold the view that this is a nation, Britain, rearing colonial offspring that become independent. Now, it says that, let me scroll down here. Where was ancient Tarshish? There's a debate surrounding the exact location, but evidence points to the location or network of locations from which the Phoenician Empire was able to source its riches to serve its markets. Now, a whole bunch of metals were coming from Tarshish. It is therefore helpful to view Tarshish as more than just a city, but a source of rich minerals serving coastal hubs. So, again, think of Britain, the landmass of Britain on the coast, serving coastal hubs through the Mediterranean, dealing with lots of metal. And again, Britain, tin. So tin was one of the metals provided there. And again, well, it says here, Ezekiel 27 says, Tarshish states, Tarshish was your merchant because of your many luxury goods. They gave you silver, iron, tin, Britain, and lead for your goods. So Tarshish, if Tarshish makes sense to be Britain, the young lions of Tarshish then would be one of them would be United States, the offspring, the colonies of Britain. So they're mentioned in Ezekiel 38, right? The United States is very, very likely mentioned as one of the colonies or the offspring or the young lions thereof, and they're simply speaking platitudes. They're speaking a bunch of words, saying, why are you coming in there? Gog, Magog, and allied nations. But they're not actually coming to the support of Israel. Interesting, as people get tired of supporting Israel, right? As United States, as the people of the United States get tired of paying for all this, for fighting the endless wars. And maybe at that point, not only are they tired of it, but they can't afford it anymore because they've been destroyed economically, and their debt is astronomical right now, as is all Western nations. So it would make sense that they actually would not have the political will or the physical ability or the money to come to Israel's defense in Ezekiel 38. So interesting study of Britain and Tarshish and the young lines thereof, and then to see the political will in the United States waning for any sort of war, which could be any time now, especially if they take any sort of cyber attacks or conventional weapons or even nuclear weapons from Russia during this time, during this battle. There would be no interest in war, because as soon as the bombs start hitting the mainland, United States, everybody will say, nope, we are not interested in this. As long as the bombs fall over there, over in another nation, American citizens aren't awake. They don't care. They're not watching. As long as it's like a video game on TV, they don't care. But as soon as it hits their homeland, there will be zero interest in going to war or sustaining these wars, sending their children off to wars, or paying for these wars. And they simply can't afford any more anyways. Interesting. So I think this is lining up. Ezekiel 38 and 39 knew it was going to happen. It didn't tell us that there would be no political will, but what it did tell us is that there will be nations, offsprings of Tarshish or Britain, that would say a bunch of words, but we don't. But there's no indication that they come and back up Israel and support Israel militarily during this period. Well, right now they have aircraft carriers in the region. So again, could it be that there's an attack on the homeland? The aircraft carriers leave, and then these nations march into Israel at that point in time where Israel's left to defend herself. And will she gain land? I believe she will, folks. She will gain land in the last days. Every time someone attacks her, she gains land. She has now gained Gaza back, and they intend to occupy Gaza and provide security. So again, they just get a little bit more land every time. They often give it back against, I think, God's will there, but they gain it back ultimately as nations attack her. And they will gain even more land, even increasing to the Levant at some point. So I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next video.